Okay, let's get into the job on how to replace your brake rotors in a Lotus Emira. It's a pretty simple job, total time maybe 2 hours. Mine went a little more in depth than just rotor replacement, so it depends on how much time you spend in some other areas. I would say difficulty level 4. Sometimes the calipers can get hung up. Sometimes the parking brakes can be difficult to remove, but overall it's nothing unmanageable. The tools you'll need will be an M5 Allen wrench, a 13mm socket, an E14 star socket, caliper hangers or large zip ties, brake cleaner, and lots of rags. Anything dealing with the brakes could be a dirty mess. You'll also possibly need new caliper bolts for each caliper around the car. The service manual does recommend replacement. However, I have not done that in the past. So let's get into it.
So this particular video is going to be slightly different. I don't just simply replace the brake rotors, although this will show you exactly how to do that in a very concise manner. I take care of some other things that I saw beneath the wheel wells, such as a little bit of corrosion and general dirt and grime that has built up over the last few months. The first order of business is you're going to want to take off these 2 hex bolts that hold on the brake calipers. This is where you're going to use the E14 star socket. I have a little trick with the jack handle to give me more leverage. I've been using that since the beginning of time. It nearly breaks everything loose. If this is your first time removing these bolts, the factory does apply red Loctite, so it can be extremely difficult. Don't be alarmed if it continues to feel like it's tightening as you're backing it out. The factory does say that these are expansion bolts, so you are supposed to replace them every time you remove them. I, however, do not. I just Loctite them back in and cinch them down. Next up, find yourself a brake caliper hanger. This saves you a world of headache and problems. Slide her in and hang it off the upper control arm and out of your way. We'll then want to grab a 5mm Allen bolt to remove the hex head that's holding on the factory rotor. And in my case, I also need to remove the GRP 12mm spacers. Because I have the studs as opposed to the lug bolts, these things get a little bound up. They fit very securely and very tightly over the center hub, but the studs also make it a little more difficult to remove them, probably because of the expansion from the heat cycles that occur over time. So you simply just pry all the way around and apply as even pressure as possible. And then sometimes you can use the rotor to break her loose. With the rotor removed, you can already tell the amount of corrosion that's on the hub assembly itself, as well as the face of the hub. And that's something I want to take care of. I immediately get to work with a wire brush, and then I will proceed to wrap everything behind that with a trash bag and give this a quick coat of paint. I'm not going for perfection here. It's something that I'll probably address long term, but it'll certainly help for now. I also give the face of the hub a quick brush down and then a spritz of brake cleaner just to clean off any dust before both paint or, in the face's case, grease is applied. Here comes the paint. Like I said, I poked a hole through the trash bag to cover everything behind it. It does make a little bit of a mess, but I don't believe there was any overspray to be concerned about. I don't do a perfect job, as you'll see when I pull this off, because I did miss a little bit of the edge, but it looks a lot better and it should help with some of that corrosion. There's a benefit to living on the coast. What you're witnessing here is the downside. Next, I do have problems right now with my traction control and ABS from my last track day. My hope is that it's simply dirty wheel speed sensors from all of the brake dust buildup. You are going to need an 8mm wrench to take these out. And although these were absolutely filthy, this ended up not being my problem, at least for now. One of them could be damaged, but I'll have to take it into the shop to understand that. These were absolutely filthy, which is why I'm struggling to remove it from the front hub assembly. Unfortunately, I don't think the buildup of corrosion or brake dust is the problem here. I can't honestly say if it's even a wheel speed sensor that's causing the problem, but whatever I did to clean these up and make them whole again did not solve my ABS and traction control issues. In addition to wiping them down, I did spray them with some electrical contact cleaner. They ended up looking pretty good, but again, who knows what's causing the original malfunction to begin with. Next, we'll get the wheel speed sensor reinstalled with that 8mm bolt. Once we tighten that up, we might as well take the time to clean the brake caliper. These things stay filthy, so this is another job that frankly, I don't care if it's perfect. It's gonna look like this again the very next time I take it out. I try to use a brush to loosen up some of the dirt, as well as to take care that I'm not getting simple green all over the brake pads. Then we can move forward with installing the Girodisks. I've already talked about the highlights of these particular rotors, but they're certainly lightweight, they look the part. You notice they are slotted but not drilled. This helps with cooling. It also helps with heat management. When installing the rotors, make sure that the orientation of the slots is going the same direction that the wheel spins. So naturally on the other side, it's going to be opposite. The one you're seeing here is the front passenger side of the vehicle. In many cases, a lot of Lotus owners believe that it's the drilled factory rotors that are causing a lot of the known issues that we experience in the factory braking. After we put that 5mm Allen head right back into the rotor to hold it in place, we'll give her a quick clean with some brake cleaner just to ensure there's no fluids or packaging grease on the rotor itself. As always, especially with these types of parts, you want to use some blue Loctite. That way you can ensure nothing backs out on its own accord under heavy braking or heavy use. From there, it's just a reverse order of everything you took off. And at this point, for most people without spacers, it's just these two E14 caliper bolts. Again, by the manual, you are supposed to replace them. I personally have not had any issues by reusing the factory bolts. If you're someone that's into torque specs, as I should be, no, really, I probably should be, these two bolts are torqued to 86 Newton meters per the service manual. We'll give the caliper one fresh wipe down due to my dirty hands, slap on the GRP 12mm spacer, throw the wheel and tire on, and then move to the rear. Real quick, one other controversial thing that I do is I apply grease to any surface that is metal on metal. This included the face of the rotor hub assembly, which Girodisks actually recommends you not to do. It also includes the GRP spacers themselves. Listen, as long as you use minimal grease so it's not slinging everywhere, I don't see how it couldn't help the situation. It will certainly prevent corrosion, with the caveat that no dirt, brake dust, etc. gets in between those two surfaces and lives within the grease. Now initially the rear is going to be very similar to the front. Two E14 bolts to remove the brake caliper. In this case, you'll need two caliper hangers, one for the main caliper and one for the parking brake. You'll have to still remove the 5mm Allen bolt to remove the rear rotors, but the difference of the rear and the front is we do have to remove the parking brake itself. This is held on by two 13mm bolts, and it does require a little finagling to physically get it off and out of the way. The top bolt is located right here. This one you'll have no issues getting in and out. Quite simple. The lower one is located right here. This one is a little more difficult because if you see, the rear sway bar actually prevents it from pulling out all the way. So this is where you're gonna have to jimmy the caliper a little bit so that it provides you with enough room to physically remove that bolt. If the caliper won't jimmy out of the way, the other thing I realized is the sleeve at which these bolts go through and that allow the caliper to flex under load, sometimes those get caught up and pinch in a way that you physically can't remove the caliper. You'll see in a second that I utilized some needle nose pliers to articulate that sleeve just enough to where it wasn't a problem pulling the caliper all the way off. At this point, we'll engage with the significantly easier task of getting off the 12mm spacer in the rear. For whatever reason, they seem to slide much easier in the back than they do the front. Once that's off, it's the 5mm bolt holding on the rotor, and then the entire rotor itself. Good night! Let's zoom in on that. Woo, that's looking rough. Yep, we'll get this one cleaned up and painted too while we're at it. So it's obviously clear that I followed the same process here as I did in the front. However, this is the last wheel that I had to do, and it ended up being quite a long day. I also took a patch of rain mid-work that day. So I think I approached the corrosion in a little bit more of a lazy manner. Again, I can always go back and touch it up even further later. But until then, we'll do one more checkup on the wheel speed sensor in the back, just to see how filthy they are. They weren't near as bad as the ones on the front. Regardless, I made sure I cleaned them up too, and reinstalled as needed. Here you can see, I'm getting a little lazier with that trash bag too. Again, similar to the front, this is the best time to get these calipers as clean as possible before bolting them back up. Ah, I'm running out of simple green. Now it's on with the Girodisc. Again, take note in the way that the vanes are traveling with the motion or direction of the wheel. Similar to the front, we're still on the passenger side, and therefore the vanes have to be traveling in the same direction. And now it's time to get her seated with the 5mm Allen bolt. We'll get that nice and tight, and then give it a quick blast of brake cleaner to remove any grease or oils from the packaging. And now it's just time to put everything back together. There's no real order in which caliper you apply first, but for now I'm going to do the main brake caliper. Remember, we want to use at least some type of Loctite on both of the E14 caliper bolts. And once we get them in place, remember you want to tighten them to 86 Newton meters of torque. I don't speak that language. I just give them one dap of man pressure. It gets the job done. I also noticed throughout this process, I actually had one of the anti-vibration shims pointed in the wrong direction on this caliper. Similar to the rotors, they should all be pointing towards the direction the wheel travels in. In this case, being on the rear, it's down. So while we're in here, we might as well fix it. Of course, in my last video, I told you that no matter which direction they're pointing, I can't tell a difference, and the brakes operate as normal. But if we're doing the job, let's do the job right. Ah, alas, the end of the simple green. One more caliper to go. You can do it, buddy. Although this one actually seems to be pretty clean. Anyway, moving on. At this point, all we have left now is to put on the parking brake in reverse order of the way we removed it. It's pretty simple, but again, you do have to jimmy it a bit to get that bottom 13mm bolt in place because the sway bar continues to block it. Similar to me having to jimmy the bolt sleeve on the removal, I believe I completely removed it for the install and then slid it in after the fact. It does play two parts. One, as a means of allowing the bolt to slide when the caliper compresses, and two, as an alignment peg of sorts in the upright. If it still gives you grief in these scenarios, walk away and come back to it, because once you start to get frustrated, it makes it harder. Now these two parking brake bolts will be tightened to 50 Newton meters, or one more dap of man pressure. Now that the connection's in, it's time to put the spacers back on and then the wheel and tire. Of course, I do add a little bit of grease to the spacer as well, just because it contacts the center of the hub. I'm hoping that'll also help it come off a little easier in the future. Well, that is it, my friends. That's how you replace your rotors, and the Girodisks are a healthy upgrade. Because of their true floating nature and their superior cooling efficiency, the braking is just so much more consistent. Granted, the padded pads also help, but the car no longer has that initial heavy bite that's hard to modulate, and it remains consistent and firm throughout the entire braking phase. Even as they heat up on track, they're predictable, manageable, and far better in my opinion. The weight savings help too. Now stick around because there was one other surprise in this process for those that are interested, and now I'll be ordering an extra part from Austria. I can only assume this broke off during one of my off-road expeditions at the Tail of the Dragon. So here I am, switching over to Girodisks to solve my braking problems. And I thought to myself, you know what? Let's check in on the brake coolers by Jubu. The question I now have is, where are the brake coolers by Jubu? Not on this wheel. And a quick look under the car leads me to believe not on any of the wheels. Something snapped them off. So I had to take a quick look before moving on. And that brake cooler is still there. So right now we only have one down, and I'll have to check the others. Luckily, the others remain fully intact. I have no idea what happened to the one on the driver's side in the rear. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope this helps somebody replace their rotors. And if you learned a little something about Girodisks, all the better.